Hello everyone, and welcome to another Let's Play of A Little Lily Princess. I know that it's been a little while since I've updated this playlist, and I'm sorry, you can really tell the difference in my activity between when I'm on vacation and when I'm not, because when I'm on vacation it's like a flurry of videos, and when I'm not it's like one every couple of weeks. So this is A Little Lily Princess by Hanako Games. My name is Anna Mardal, and this is part of an ongoing Let's Play. So if you just landed here, you probably want to go back over the playlist and look at the other ones first, because we're just going to jump right in and nothing's going to make sense. So when we last left, it was week 22 or week 23, I'm not sure. That's kind of a weird annotation. I'm not sure how the save game means, but it's one of those weeks. Sarah was playing hostess to Jessie at a tea party in her rooms, but upon this occasion, Jessie's interest seemed more drawn to Sarah's French maid. Truly? The corset is no longer at the height of fashion? Not in Paris, mademoiselle. It is quite good enough in Provence. In London, the curved back and large bosom still dominates, but Paris must always be at the front of things, you see. Isn't that a lovely idea, Sarah? To be free to move and breathe, to have a small chest, and to still be beautiful? If it is beautiful in Paris, then it must be beautiful elsewhere, even if people don't see it that way. The fashions of Paris are emulated all around the world, but it does take time. Marie Antoinette devised a fashion of shepherdesses, didn't she? It was not quite so, mademoiselle. As I have heard, the queen grew tired of the stiff brocade and jewels of court dress and wished something more light and simple. She designed gowns of soft, thin muslin with much gathering and ruffle, gowns that could be both beautiful and comfortable. That design, in its own way, may have led to many of the dresses young ladies such as yourselves wear now. Paris before all. I said Paris before all, but it's probably more like Paris. And again, I have to apologize because my accent is so bad. I'm so bad. But that's my Texan for you. I thought that the Queen wasn't very popular in France anymore. There are many who hate the royalty of the past and all that they represent, and others who still hope that the Sun King will come again. Perhaps the crown will be restored one day. I do not know. It is not for my hands to decide. As for Marie Antoinette, some mock her memory, but I have always had my own sympathy. I believe I was named in her honor. Oh, how charming! As conversation turned from Marie Antoinette to the Celtic origins of Jessie's own name, Sarah's mind wandered into recollections of a book she had read recently. It was not entirely unrelated, for it had been a book about the French Revolution. Specifically, the prisoners of the Bastille, men who had spent so many years in dungeons that when they were dragged out by their rescuers, their long gray hair and beards covered their faces. After so many years trapped underground, they had forgotten that the outside world existed at all, and to them, walking into freedom was not so much waking from a dream as entering into one. To doubt the sun, to forget that there was such a thing as stars, those poor souls. And yet, over time, they must have learned to believe in their new world. England was very strange to me after living in India, but now it seems as real, or even more so, than my memories. Sarah? Oh, please excuse me. My thoughts began to run away on their own. A pity they can't carry us with them. Oh, I like them so much. Hang on, I'm going to try to turn the music down just a tiny bit. I'm afraid it's too loud. Okay, hopefully that's a little better. Alright. Oh, and this is what happens when, like me, you leave for 2 weeks and you don't remember what the next gates were coming up. So we're just going to make decisions based on what we have very little of. We have almost no artistry, sympathy, or belief. Dance gives us potentially artistry and grace. And I remember that was... Huh. Toys gives you... Let me double check this. Belief is the cross, heart is the sympathy, and art is the artistry. So play with toys potentially gives all of those. Let's do that. Let's also save. Oh, I think those naming patterns were actually me. So we had week 23 on week 22. So never mind. Like I said, this is what happens when I go away for 2 weeks and I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so we got some vigor, which we didn't need. We got more vigor, which we didn't need. There's the stuff we did need. Ugh. Okay, no. We're not doing that. I'm not going to take a bunch of vigor that we don't need. That's ridiculous. There's one. Seriously? I don't think I like the randomized system. I really don't. Because there's... The only reason not to game it is if you personally have a problem with saves coming, which I never have. So it just means that you end up saves coming to get what ought to be gettable regardless. What the heck? Okay, so that does not feel randomized if we're getting the middle vigor one 4 times each time we do this. Okay, well that's not gonna work. What happens if we do write in diary? Alright, that's actually stuff we can use. We're still really low on artistry, but... Miss? Oh! Sarah was startled when Becky caught her arm in the hallway one day. The scullery maid was usually too timid to be so insistent. If Sarah did not call out to her, Becky would more often pass by unnoticed. What is it, Becky? Oh, miss, I heard it's your birthday soon, miss. Yes, it's next week. That's what I thought I heard, miss, but I weren't sure. When is your birthday, Becky? Don't know, miss. Never had one. But you must have a birthday. Everyone does. You were born. I don't rightly remember that part, miss. But if you don't know when you were born, how old are you? Not sure of that either, miss. The workhouse reckoned I were past 14 and old enough for service. She doesn't look over 14. Mariette said she thought Becky was older than she appeared. Poor Becky to never had a birthday. Well then, if you have no birthday of your own, you shall share in mine. Miss Minchin asked if there was anything I wanted for my party. I want my papa to be there, but she can't fix that for me. But she can let you come to my party, and I'm sure she will if I ask her to. Oh, miss, are you sure? Of course I'm sure. Every little girl deserves birthday parties. Maybe you're older or maybe you're not, but you're still a little girl. Becky made a small noise, like a laugh half swallowed and tucked away. Oh, I've got to scarp her now, miss, but I hope you're right. Okay, So we have all the Jessie Act 1 events. There's another act coming. Crumbs. Let's go talk to Becky. I still feel bad about missing Lavinia. I'm sorry about that. I really am. I didn't see it. When Sarah went into her sitting room in the afternoon, she found on the table a small dumpy package tied up in a piece of brown paper. A birthday present. And I think I know whom it came from. She unwrapped the paper quite tenderly. Inside there was a square pincushion made out of not quite clean red flannel. Black pens had been stuck carefully into the surface to form the words, "Many happy returns." The sight and the thought of the pains Becky must have taken to put it all together gave Sarah a warm feeling in her heart. I like it so much that it makes me feel sorrowful. But the next moment she was mystified. On the underside of the pincushion was secured a card bearing in neat letters the name Miss Mariah Minchin. Sarah turned the card over in her hands in case some message were written on the underside, but there was nothing. Miss Minchin? How can it be? Just at that very moment, she heard the door being cautiously pushed open. Becky peeped around the door, then grinned and shuffled forward, pulling at her fingers. Do you like it, Miss Sarah? Do you? Like it? You darling! You made this all yourself? Becky gave a hysteric but joyful sniff, and her eyes looked quite moist with delight. Can't do fancy stitching like Mariette, and it ain't nothing but flannel, and the flannel ain't new. But I wanted to get you something, so I worked on it at nights. I knew you could pretend it was satin with diamond pins in it. I tried to when I was making it. Oh yes, a blue satin cushion and pink diamonds, the rarest and most precious of all. Something Becky made with her own hands in her spare time, when she has so little, is already more precious than diamonds. But why does it have Miss Minchin's card on it? It wasn't wrong of me to pick it out of the dustbin, was it? Miss Minchin had thrown it away. I ain't got a card of my own, and I knew it wouldn't be proper present if I didn't pin a card on, so pinned Miss Minchin's. Sarah flew at her and hugged her. She could not have told herself or anyone else why there was a lump in her throat. Oh, Becky, I love you, Becky. I do. Oh, miss. Thank you, miss, kindly. But it ain't good enough for that. The flannel weren't new. Sarah laughed into Becky's neck, a queer little laugh that sounded almost as much like tears as it did like joy. You are far too sweet. She pulled back, looking into Becky's dear face. I wish I were a fairy godmother who could bring you a magical dress and turn you into the princess you deserve to be. Me? Of course. You are the kind and ill-treated heroine who works hard every day without any thanks. In any proper story, you ought to turn out to be the lost daughter of a king. Don't think my mum's ever seen a king, miss. It doesn't have to be that way. A fairy tale baby might be sent down the river on a tiny boat to safety, or discovered curled up inside a walnut shell. Don't think I'd ever fit in a walnut shell either. Sarah giggled. Well, however you were born and wherever you came from, I'm very glad that you're here now with me. I'm gonna cry. This game, I love it, but it is tearing my heart open. Mademoiselle, you must hold still so that I can see the new dress on you correctly. Oh my. That's a dress. I am sorry, Mariette. I heard a horse's hooves and the sound of wheels, and then they slowed, and I thought perhaps it was a carriage come to call. A carriage with my papa. Mademoiselle, Hanging your head will not make your papa come any faster, nor will it help me adjust your dress for the party. Is it wrong to keep hoping, Mariette? I know he never sent word that he could come, but he never sent a letter to say that he absolutely couldn't either. I do not think I can answer that, mademoiselle. Hope is something very personal. Then I think I will. It will be sad if my birthday comes and my papa is not here, but if I give up hope, then I would be sad now. I think it will be easier to be sad then, while I'm having a nice party with my friends, than to be sad now. I am sorry. I didn't mean to make it more difficult for you to finish my dress. Sarah raised her head and spread her arms out like a little doll. If my papa is to see this, then it must be lovely. And if my papa will not be there, then it should be just as nice to keep up our spirits. Isn't that right, Emily? Mariette laughed to herself, but would not say why. Let's just stay with the believe sympathy stuff. Maybe getting some artistry in the process. Huh. Dude, that's like a bunch of clocks I didn't need. Oh well. It was, at last, the day of Sarah's birthday party. There had been no further word from her papa, but at this moment Sarah was too carried away with anticipation to feel disappointment. Oh, Miss Minchin, may I not go into the classroom yet? Everyone is already there waiting. Not until the preparations are complete, my dear. This is not an ordinary occasion. I do not desire that it should be treated as one. And so she was required to wait in the hall, breathless and fidgeting, until Cook emerged from the classroom. Everything's ready, Mum. Very well. Take my hand, Sarah, and let us enter. Sarah entered the holly-hung schoolroom as the head of a sort of procession. First there was Miss Minchin in a grand silk dress, and Sarah herself guided by her hand. A manservant followed, carrying the box containing the last doll. Cook carried a second box, and Becky brought up the rear, carrying a third box and wearing a clean apron and a new cap. All the students in their seats stared at this little parade, the older girls touching each other's elbows and nodding, the youngest squirming with excitement. Faced with so many eyes, Sarah felt herself unaccountably shy. Not since her first introduction at Miss Minchin's select seminary had she been quite so much the center of all attention. Silence, young ladies. The room itself was not quite transformed, but certainly made far more festive. The desks had been pushed away, and the long form benches covered over with red cloth. A large table had been set in place of Pride, its surface scattered with flower petals. It was here that Miss Minchin directed her entourage. James, place that box upon the table and remove the lid. Emma, put yours upon a chair. Becky. Becky had quite forgotten herself in her excitement, and was exchanging grins with Lottie when that disapproving voice nearly startled her into dropping her box. Yes, ma'am. She bobbed a shaky little curtsy of apology, but with the box still in her arms, the positioning was quite awkward. Both tittered at once, and then looked at each other in startlement for falling so easily into their lost rapport. Oh. It is not at your place to look at the young ladies. You forget yourself. Put your box down. Yes'm. You may leave us. She waved her hand, and the servants began to walk away. If you please, Miss Minchin, may Aunt Becky stay? Becky? I want her because I know she will like to see the presents. She is a little girl too, you know. Miss Minchin was scandalized. She glanced from one figure to the other. My dear Sarah, Becky is the scullery maid. Scullery maids are not little girls. But Becky is, and I know she would enjoy herself. Please let her stay, because it is my birthday." Miss Minchin took a slow breath and replied with much dignity, "As you ask it for a birthday favor, she may stay. Rebecca, thank Miss Sarah for her great kindness." Becky had been backing into the corner, twisting the hem of her apron in delighted suspense. She came forward, bobbing curtsies, but out of Miss Minchin's sight she passed a friendly wink to Sarah. "Oh, if you please, miss, I'm that grateful, miss. I did want to see the doll, miss, that I did. Thank you, miss, and thank you, ma'am, for the liberty." "Go and stand there, not too near the young ladies." Becky went to her place, grinning. She did not even mind when Miss Minchin cleared her throat ominously and spoke again. "Now, young ladies, I have a few words to say to you." She's going to make a speech. I wish it were over. "You are aware, young ladies, that today is dear Sarah's birthday." Dear Sarah. Sarah's birthdays are rather different from other little girls' birthdays. When she is older, she will be heiress to a large fortune, which it will be her duty to spend in a meritorious manner. The diamond mines. When her dear papa, Captain Crewe, brought her from India and gave her into my care, he said to me, in a jesting way, "I am afraid she will be very rich, Miss Minchin." My reply was, "Her education at my seminary, Captain Crewe, shall be such as will adorn the largest fortune." I wish she would stop. Saying these things makes me feel hot all over, and everyone is staring. Sarah has become my most accomplished pupil. Her French and her dancing are a credit to the seminary. Her manners, which have caused you to call her Princess Sarah, are perfect. Her amiability she exhibits by giving you this afternoon's party. I hope you appreciate her generosity. I wish you to express your appreciation of it by saying aloud all together, 'Thank you, Sarah.'" The entire schoolroom rose to its feet and chorused Miss Minchin's words. Lottie even jumped up and down. Sarah looked rather shy for a moment, then made a very nice curtsy. "Thank you for coming to my party." "Very pretty indeed, Sarah. That is what a real princess does when the populace applauds her." "Lavinia, the sound you just made was extremely like a snort. If you are jealous of your fellow pupil, I beg you will express your feelings in some more ladylike manner. Now, I will leave you to enjoy yourselves." The instant she had swept out of the room, the web-like aura that had held the girls down dissipated, and they rushed from their seats in a babble of excitement. It was the boxes that drew the most attention. Sarah was bent over one. "These are books, I know." "Does your papa send you books for a birthday present? Why, he's as bad as mine." "I like them." "Books aren't exciting. I want to see the doll." For everyone present, through whispered rumors, had come to know that a quite magnificent doll was due to appear. Even so, when Sarah finally produced the last doll from her box, a number of the girls were struck speechless. It did not seem possible that she could be a doll. She looked only a bit smaller than the youngest students, as if a beautiful child lay asleep in that box. "She's dressed for the theater. Look, her coat is lined with ermine. Oh, she has an opera glass in her hand, a blue and gold one." Sarah drew out the doll's trunk and the little golden key which unlocked it. Inside were tray after tray of delightful things. There were lace collars and silk stockings and handkerchiefs. There was a jewel case containing a necklace and a tiara, which looked quite as if they were made of real diamonds. Sarah picked up a black velvet hat to perch on the last doll's curls. "Suppose she understands human talk and feels proud of being admired." "You are always supposing things." "Her air was very superior. Yet the words were less vicious than Lavinia's outbursts in the past week had been. Perhaps the aura of celebration had brought even Lavinia some happiness. There is nothing so nice as supposing. It's almost like being a fairy. If you suppose anything hard enough, it seems as if it were real. At that moment, the door opened. Ladies. Cook drew herself up as if attempting to speak in Miss Minchin's dry tones, but the effect did not quite become her. Miss Minchin has a meeting, so she said you should all have your refreshments now. Refreshments! Becky, who had seen the preparations ahead of time, could not help blurting out, Tell 'em what you got! Cook shook a heavy hand in Becky's direction, and the scullery girl closed her mouth and ducked away. Special treat from overseas, all the way from America. It's some kind of beans and spiced tomato sauce, and they put it in cans. How quaint! Beans? In her office, Miss Minchin was meeting with a familiar visitor. Good day, Mr. Barrow. Have you come to see the goods? I can assure you the doll is just as expected. £100. All expensive material, and made at a Parisian modiste's. He spent money lavishly enough, that young man. Captain Crewe is a man of fortune. The diamond mines alone. Diamond mines. There are no such things. Never were. Miss Minchin stood up from her chair in confusion. What? What do you mean? At any rate, it would have been much better if there never were any. Any diamond mines? I don't understand. Diamond mines spell ruin, oftener than they spell wealth. When a man is in the hands of a very dear friend and is not a businessman himself, he had better steer clear of the dear friend's diamond mines, or gold mines, or any other kind of mines dear friends want his money to put into. The late Captain Crewe. The late Captain Crewe? You don't come to tell me that Captain Crewe is... He's dead, ma'am. Died of jungle fever and business troubles combined. The jungle fever might not have killed him if he had not been driven mad by the business troubles, and the troubles might not have put an end to him if the fever had not assisted. Captain Crewe is dead. Miss Minchin dropped into her chair again. What were his business troubles? Diamond mines and dear friends, and ruin. Ruin? That young man had spent too much money and spent... That young man had too much money and spent too freely. The dear friend was mad on the subject of the diamond mine. He put all of his money into it. Then the dear friend ran away. Captain Crewe was already stricken with fever when the news came. The shock was too much for him. He died delirious, raving about his little girl, and left her not a penny. He left nothing? Do you mean to tell me that that child is a beggar? That she has left on my hands a little pauper instead of an heiress? She is certainly left a beggar, and she is certainly left on your hands, ma'am. She hasn't a relation in the world that we know of. She is sitting in my rooms at this very moment, dressed in silk gauze and lace petticoats, giving a party at my expense. She's certainly giving it at your expense, madam, if she's giving it. I was so sure of his payments that I went to all sorts of ridiculous expenses for the child. Her maid, her carriage. I paid the bills for that ridiculous doll and her ridiculous fantastic wardrobe. I sent you the receipts. Barrow and Skipworth are not responsible for anything. There never was a cleaner sweep made of a man's fortune. Captain Crewe died without paying our last bill, and it was a big one. Now Miss Minchin understood, and never had she received such a blow in her life. She felt as if she had been outraged and robbed, and that Captain Crewe and Sarah and Mr. Barrow were equally to blame. Her show pupil, her prize patron, her income, all had been snatched away. Instead, she was burdened with an extravagantly brought-up child, one who had cost her a great deal, and might continue to cost her even more. But what am I to do? What am I to do? There isn't anything to do. Captain Crewe is dead. The child is left a pauper. Nobody is responsible for her but you. I am not responsible for her, and I refuse to be made responsible. If you think she is to be foisted off on me, you are greatly mistaken. I have been robbed and cheated. I will turn her into the street. Mr. Barrow turned and moved toward the door, showing no concern. I wouldn't do that, madam. It wouldn't look well. Reflects poorly on the establishment. Pupil bundled out penniless and without friends. Other parents might object. You and I are people of business, madam. We can be sensible about these matters. Better to keep her and make use of her. She's a clever child, I believe. You can get a good deal out of her as she grows older. I will get a good deal out of her before she grows older. I am sure you will, madam. I am sure you will. He gave a little sinister smile and departed. For moments, Maria Minchin was incapable of doing anything but standing and staring at the closed door. During the past months, the story of the diamond mines had suggested all sorts of possibilities to her. Even proprietaries of seminaries might make fortunes in stocks with the aid of owners of mines. And now, instead of looking forward to gains, she was left to look back upon losses. Such money as she herself had advanced was lost and could not be regained. Instead of a jewel of a pupil, she had only a friendless, beggared little girl. The Princess Sarah, indeed. The child has been pampered as if she were a queen. She did not realize at first that she had spoken aloud, and then scowled at her own loss of control. What was lost could not be recovered, but she would see to it that she lost nothing more. You wanted to see me, Miss Minchin. The older woman ignored Sarah's presence completely, turning her gaze to the young Frenchwoman who served as Sarah's maid. Mariette, has the girl a black frock in her sumptuous wardrobe? A black frock, madame? She has frocks of every other color. Has she a black one? Mariette's face stiffened as the awful suspicion grew. Yes, but it is too short for her. She has only the old black velvet, and she has outgrown it. Miss Minchin, what has happened? You do not speak until you are spoken to. Bring the black dress out at once, whether it is too short or not. She is done with finery. Yes, madame. Sarah did not speak. She could not. Her entire body was frozen in place. Her eyes seemed to get bigger and bigger, and she went quite pale. Captain Crewe is dead. He has died without a penny. This spoiled, pampered, fanciful child is left a pauper on my hands. You, Sarah, take off that preposterous gauze, change into the black dress, and meet me in my office. And you, Mariette, you were employed on the authority of Captain Crewe, and your wages were his responsibility, not mine. As he has left us with nothing, there is nothing left for you. Your employment is hereby terminated. Remove yourself from this establishment at once. Oh. I liked Mariette, and I was afraid we were going to lose her. Mariette walked heavily down the stairs. A bevy of frightened, confused faces looked up at her, the students of the party which had so suddenly been called to a halt. Oh, Mariette, what has happened? I don't know how to pronounce that. Demotion. What? I don't understand. Sarah's papa is dead. She has nothing. I have nothing. What? Nothing? It is all over. I am leaving. The girls who remained were too shocked to prevent Mariette's angry exit. Sarah, Mama. I can't believe it. There must be a mistake. I will speak to Miss Minchin at once. Oh, Lavinia, oh my God. That's going to be the thing that breaks me and makes me cry. I can't believe Lavinia would stick up for us. Thank you. Lavinia. Get out of my way, you clod. Lavinia shoved the other girl aside. Ermengarde could not find the will to resist her. It was all too terrible and too certainly true. What will happen now? Will Miss Minchin make her leave too? Becky's legs would no longer hold her. She fell into a heap on the floor, her kerchief sliding loose, and sobbed as if her heart would break. It's exactly like the ones in the stories. Them poor princess ones that was drove into the world. When Sarah Crewe came into Miss Minchin's office an hour later, her face was white and her eyes had dark rings around them. She did not look in the least like the rose-colored butterfly child who had flown from one treasure to another in the decorated schoolroom. Without Mariette's age, she had put on the cast-aside black velvet frock. It was too short and tight, making her legs look drawn out and spindle-thin where they showed beneath the skirt. She clutched Emily tightly in one arm, the doll's face covered by a scrap of discarded black lace for a mourning veil. Put that doll down. What do you mean by bringing it here? It should have been left in the room, along with all the other things that are no longer yours. She is all I have. My papa gave her to me before I came to the school. I will not put her down. You will have no time for dolls in the future. Everything will be different now. Do you quite understand matters? Yes, my papa is dead. He left me no money. I am quite poor. You are a beggar. It appears you have no relations and no home, and no one to take care of you. What are you staring at? Are you so stupid that you cannot understand? I tell you that you are quite alone in the world unless I choose to keep you here out of charity. I understand. That ridiculous French doll, and all her nonsensical extravagant things, I actually paid the bill for her. The last doll. Last doll indeed, and she is mine, not yours. Everything you own is mine. Please take it away from me then. I do not want it. Don't put on airs with me. You are not a princess any longer. You will keep only your plainest and oldest clothes, and the rest will be sold. You are like Becky. You must work for your living. What can I do? You can do anything you are told. If you make yourself useful, I may let you stay here. You will run errands and help in the kitchen as well as in the schoolroom. If you don't please me, you will be sent away. Remember that. I won't forget. Come with me. Miss Minchin led Sarah along the hall, past her own beautiful, comfortable rooms, stopping at a narrow staircase leading upwards. Your rooms will be given to another boarder. You are to sleep in the attic next to Becky. Sarah stood still, just a moment, looking at her. Without a word, she turned to the stairs. Stop! Don't you intend to thank me? What for? For my kindness to you. My kindness in giving you a home. Sarah made 2 or 3 steps towards her. Her thin little chest heaved up and down. You are not kind. You are not kind, and it is not a home. Before Miss Minchin could stop her, she turned and ran up the narrow stairs. When she reached the attic door and opened it, her heart gave a dreary little thump. It was another world. The room had a slanting roof. It was whitewashed, but the whitewash was dingy and had fallen off in places. There was a rusty grate, an old iron bedstead, and a hard bed covered with a faded coverlet. Some pieces of furniture, too worn to be used downstairs, were stored here, out of sight. Under the dull illumination from the skylight in the roof, there stood an old battered red footstool. Sarah went to it and sat down. She seldom cried. She did not cry now. She laid Emily across her knees and stared at her impassive, dull face. I wish she could talk. If she could speak. If she could speak. But Emily did not make a sound, and neither did Sarah. Sarah sat in silence for some time, until there came a low tap on the door, such a low, humble one that she did not even hear it. Her intention was not roused until the door was timidly pushed aside, and a poor, tear-smeared face peeped around it. "Oh, miss. Would you allow me just to come in?" Sarah lifted her head and looked at her. She tried to begin a smile, but somehow she could not. Faced with the loving mournfulness of Becky's streaming eyes, her own at last began to water. "Oh, Becky!" She held out her hand. Becky ran to her, clasping it tightly. "I told you, didn't I, that we were just the same, just two little girls. You see how true it is. There's no difference between us now. I'm not a princess anymore." Becky knelt beside her, hugging Sarah's hand to her chest. "Yes, miss, you are. Whatever happens to you, whatsoever, you'd be a princess all the same. And nothing couldn't make you nothing different." Okay. I'm gonna cut a save there. I'm not stopping, I'm just gonna save. Let's just call that one crying. Okay. Wow. I knew that was coming. Like, I'm familiar with the Little Princess story, so I knew that this was gonna happen, but I'm crying so hard right now. I can barely read the screen. Hold on. And I'm trying not to sniff at you. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna pause for just a second. Okay. That first night she spent in her attic was a thing Sarah never forgot. During its passing, she lived through a wild, unchildlike woe of which she never spoke to anyone. There was no one who would have understood. "My papa is dead." It was perhaps for the best that as she lay there, her mind was forcibly distracted from its anguish by the strangeness of her surroundings and the physical discomfort of the hard bed beneath her. "My papa is dead." She turned over and over again in search of rest, while all around her pressed a darkness more intense than any she had ever known, and the wind howled among the chimneys like a living thing. Some noises were worse than the wind. There were scufflings and scratchings and squeakings in the wall and behind the skirting boards. Sarah knew what they meant because Becky had described them. Rats. Once or twice she even heard sharp-toed feet scurrying across the floor in her attic room and startled up from her bed. But there was nowhere for her to go, and nothing for her to do but lay her small form down again and cover her head with the bedclothes. Sleep, what she had of it, came only in those moments where exhaustion overwhelmed confusion and despair. Sarah could sleep only a few minutes at a time before her awareness forcibly resurfaced. "Papa." In the morning, her already pale face had been haggarded by the night of torment. She passed through the hallway where the students slept. The door to her room stood slightly ajar, enough for Sarah to see everything had been changed. Her ornaments and luxuries had been removed, and a bed had been placed in a corner to transform it into a new pupil's bedroom. Her presence had been completely wiped away. When she went down for a morning meal, she saw that her seat at Miss Minchin's side was now occupied by Lavinia, who refused to meet her eyes. "You ought to have been down earlier, Sarah, if you wanted any breakfast."
You are not a student here, but an employee. You have duties. You must begin as you are to go on. Take a seat with the younger children and see that they keep quiet and do not waste their food.
Yes, Miss Mitchin. I must do the best that I can. I must not talk back. This is all that I have.
Oh, now that Sarah is no longer a student, her time is filled with chores, and the kinds of icons she can gather have changed. We have hunger, fatigue, pride, pain, chill, and sorrow. As before, icons are only converted at the end of the week. Wow. Wow. Okay. So we're actually increasing hunger, fatigue, pain, chill, and sorrow. That seems bad. Kitchen duty increases hunger and fatigue, or fatigue and pain, or hunger and pride. Washing clothes gives chill and sorrow. Sorrow's got the rainy one. Dust and polish, run errands, and tend fires. And we're just gonna call this one Hades, because I guess that's where we are now. And we have no idea what to aim for because we don't know what... I don't know what the goals are for in terms of... That's annoying. So we'll just do one of everything. Oh, look at her, little sad. Okay, we got hunger and fatigue. We got fatigue and coldness. Fatigue and pain. Chill. More fatigue. Oh, yay. Here, look at you then. The fancy girl all made such a fuss over. Not so high and mighty now, are you? There'll be no more tea and cakes for you, missy, and don't you forget it. Always expecting us folk to serve with a smile, aren't you, ladies? Never a thought of how much else we might have to be getting on with. No, it's always you. We'll see how you like it then. You're nothing now, missy, do you hear me? Nothing. Say something, why don't you?
Please, ma'am.
Don't you ma'am me. Ain't none of us ma'am or miss, not down here. That's for the upstairs folk.
Please, I came to see if you have any duties for me.
Ha! Hoping I wouldn't, and you can duck away and leave me to take the blame if you're caught. Look at your hands, soft as porridge. Soon crack and bleed if I gave you any real work, and then you'd ruin what you touch. Here, girl, take these rags out back and wash them. And if you bleed on them, wash them again.
Yes, cook. I mustn't complain. I must show her that I am trying to earn my living.
Oh. Okay, so we're locked off from talking. Oh, man. I feel like I've failed you guys. I'm sorry. Let's go see Jessie.
Sarah trudged from room to room, a basket of laundry placed on her hip. She had to knock for admittance at every door. It would not do for a mere servant to burst in on a young lady unawares. As it was on this afternoon, most of the young ladies, her former peers, were elsewhere, and the rooms lay empty. But when she knocked on Jessie's door, a faint voice answered, "Come in." Sarah shifted the basket so she could reach the door. "Oh! Sarah! I can't. I'm here for your clothes." "What?" "Laundry." "Oh." She didn't say anything else after that, only pulled herself closer to her dressing table so Sarah could pass unhindered. As Sarah picked up Jessie's discarded gowns to add to her basket, she couldn't help stealing a few glances at the red-haired girl. Jessie was hunched forward in her seat, her shoulders high and stiff, not moving. Her head never turned. She doesn't even want to look at me. Perhaps Lavinia was right, and it was only the diamonds that made Jessie seek out my company. No, it hurts to see you like this, baby. I wouldn't be able to look at you either. Jessie loved things that were beautiful and happy. I can never be that again. Lost in her own reflections, Sarah gathered the clothes and left the room without another word. Oh, my heart is broken. Do make an effort, Ermengarde. The classroom is inches from the dining room. Even you should be able to manage. That's not fair. I had to go back upstairs for my book. Stung by Lavinia's teasing, Ermengarde hurried through the door and closed it behind her. They're going to class. They have books. She stood there for a moment, biting her lip and staring at the wood of the door, when suddenly it opened again. Sarah, come with me. Sarah lowered her gaze and followed Miss Minchin into the kitchen. Emma, the basket. Here, ma'am. Very good. Sarah, here is a list of things we need from the market, and here are some coins to pay for them. When you are done, bring your purchases to Emma and any leftover coin to me. I know what such items should cost. Do not attempt to pocket any of the coins for yourself, or you will be whipped for theft. Yes, Miss Minchin. On with you, then. Sarah kept her head down and walked out of the room without protest. At least her education is not completely wasted. That Becky can scarcely read her name. I certainly couldn't give her written instructions. No, ma'am. Well, get back to your own work. Yes, ma'am. I don't know what the... Like, if you get too much, does something bad happen? We have too much fatigue, but nothing doesn't give you fatigue. Look at her sad eyes. I'm dying. Okay. Ouch! Lavi, you're sitting on my hair. Perhaps you ought not spread it everywhere then. Please, won't you move? I am reading, as you can see. Why don't you move instead? It's not like you're paying attention to your books. You never do. Sarah, dusting shelves along the wall, tried not to react to the mention of books. It is none of my business. I must finish this task and return. I can't move because you're on top of my hair. Please, Lavi. Oh, very well. Lavinia stood and moved over slightly before sitting again. Suddenly, her eyes gleamed. I think there are one too many shadows in this room. What? Oh no, I was wrong. It is only the scullery girl. Sarah turned her head just a bit and looked at Lavinia, saying nothing. To think that she was the girl with the diamond mines. She does look an object, doesn't she? Hush. And she's queerer than ever. I never liked her much, but I can't bear that way she has now of staring at her betters without speaking, as if she were supposing something nasty happening to us. I would not waste my time imagining bad things happening to other people. I watch people to find them out, and to try and avoid any mischief they might make for me. If Lavinia tripped me or shoved me, no one would care. No one would punish her. She continued to stare at the two girls until Jessie nervously clutched her friend's hand. Come on, let's go sit in my room instead. The atmosphere would certainly be an improvement. And Sarah said nothing. Oh, I need more pride. Okay. The hard bed would never be a comfortable place to sleep, but after struggling through her unaccustomed labors day after day, Sarah could not help but collapse into exhaustion. Sometimes when she woke, she would not at first remember where she was or what had happened. It would be as if she had been snatched from her old room and trapped in a cold gray prison. Memory, when it resurfaced, brought no relief. The prison was the world. There was no escape. That morning, Sarah was roused from her slumber by the squeak of hinges. Someone was entering her room. "Becky?" "It's all right, miss. Come to help you get ready, that's all. You've been such a rich young lady. You've been waited on and hand and foot all your life. What would you do now, without no maid? Them dresses of yours is meant for a maid to button. Now you're poor. You've only got me to wait on you. It won't take a minute. I can do it right quick." "But you shouldn't. I'm not any different from you." "Course you're different, miss. You were brought up different. Not like this. It weren't never meant to be like this for you. The missus could have broke it to you more gentle. She's like one of 'em wicked stepmothers in the stories." "It wouldn't change anything. I would still be a pauper, and my papa would still be dead. Let me help you get dressed, miss." "She already has so much to do. She shouldn't be wasting her time pampering me. I'm not any better than she is." Despite that twinge of guilt, Sarah lacked the energy to protest further. Becky was right. It was much easier to get dressed when she let someone else help her. "There, you see? That's much better." Sarah essayed a smile as thanks, but her face struggled to find a happy expression. "Don't you worry about it, miss. You helped me lots of times. Gave me food and told me stories. It made it all seem so much nicer. It's my turn now, isn't it? I can't get you cakes or books, but I can do your room and your dress and anything else you need. I know all you need to know about attics and watching and all kinds of things. I'll help, I will." "My loyal handmaid. Oh, Becky, I don't deserve you." Sarah's eyes gleamed with unshed tears, but she did not speak. Becky patted her shoulder, more sure of herself now that she had asserted her expertise in scullery-maid life. "Don't you worry if you don't feel much like talking right now. I know sometimes a heart in trouble should be left alone. But if and you do need me, I'll be right next door. I'm sorry we can't talk much while we're working, but the missus would box our ears for loitering. So don't mind me, miss, if I don't say nothing polite during the day. Someone would be down on us if I did. I always means please and thank you and beg pardon, but I dasn't to take time to say it." All Sarah could do was nod. "Oh, Becky, if not for you, I think my heart would break for loneliness." "How am I going to choose between them?"
"Emma, where is Sarah?" "Curled up in the corner there, slacking no doubt. You, girl, get to your feet so the lady can see you."
Sarah, who had been crouched on the floor, scrubbing the inside of a particularly stubborn pot, pushed herself up. She rose too quickly for her dizzy head, and then had to fight not to wobble where she stood. "Yes, Miss Minchin."
"As you are so gifted with the French language, you will assist the younger students with their lessons. However, you are not to linger about with them. Remember your place and your duties. You are not a friend to those girls. You work for the seminary. You are here to serve them, nothing more. If I catch you telling stories or shirking to gossip with the students, you will be punished. Is that understood?"
"Yes, Miss Minchin."
"Good. Now get upstairs and air out the bedrooms."
Sarah nodded and left quickly, before any other unpleasant words could be spoken.
"There is something distressingly impudent about that girl. I do not trust her. I will not have her forming intimacies and talking to the other children. Girls that age love a grievance, and if she begins to tell romantic stories about herself, she will become an ill-used heroine, and parents will be given a wrong impression. It is better that she should live a separate life, one suited to her circumstances. I am giving her a home, and that is more than she has any right to expect from me."
"I shouldn't worry, ma'am.
Those little misses don't look much past their noses. They see how she's dressed, and I don't want to think about her or talk to her any more than out of my way or fetch my tea. Miss Minchin looked at her. Begging your pardon, ma'am. Have the tea brought to my rooms when it is ready. Yes, ma'am. Okay. We need pride. And I'm gonna save. And I wish I could pick Jessie and Becky, but that's what multiple games are for. Okay, there's our pride. That's a lot of fatigue. Girl.
Yes, cook?
Take this message into town. The address is printed on the envelope, see? Take it and go.
Sarah picked up the envelope and hesitated.
What are you waiting for?
It's raining.
Oh, you have eyes and ears, do you? Mind you keep that letter dry as you go.
I haven't a carriage anymore.
Better walk faster then.
But...
And a tongue you've found as well. Wondered how long that would take. Without warning, Cook lashed out with the wooden spoon she was holding, striking Sarah hard upon the arm. Ow! That's what you get for talking back to me. Dogs aren't afraid of the rain. You're an animal the same as them, so you deal with it.
I don't think dogs like to go out in the rain either.
Are you going to get moving, or am I going to have to school you again?
There was nothing else to be done. Sarah bowed her head, hiding the pain in her arm and the stinging in her eyes, and walked out into the rain.
Set's route. I'm not sure what that means. I think that means that you can't pick the other ones at that point.
Sarah? It took Sarah a few moments to register that Jessie had spoken to her. Since everything had changed, the pupils almost never used Sarah's name. Most did not address her at all. The feeling of her own name becoming foreign left Sarah out of sorts, and perhaps turned her reply more unfriendly than she might have intended. What? As Jessie blinked, Sarah quickly corrected herself. She dared not offend one of Miss Minchin's good pupils. I mean, do you need something? I was just wondering. Well, now that you're required to dress like a servant, you don't need your old clothes anymore, right? So I was wondering if there was anything I could have?
Jessie, oh my God.
Sarah could only stare at her, so taken aback by Jessie's empty-headedness that she could not, at first, form words. You... Jessie's lovely lashes fluttered in confusion. She understood nothing. I'm not dressing like a servant. I'm wearing this dress because it's the only one I have. Everything I owned was taken away and sold. Blank incomprehension. But who took it away? Miss Minchin. Did she give you the money? Of course not. But they were yours. She bit her lip, suddenly rueful. It was obvious to Sarah that Jessie still did not entirely understand the situation, but that she did see Sarah's pain and was sorry for having increased it. You have nothing left? Nothing at all? This dress, and Emily, my doll, because I would not let Miss Minchin have her. Even Emily has only one dress remaining. Her wardrobe and her tea set are gone. I didn't know. I thought all those things belonged to you. I didn't think she could take them away. Maybe you should ask Lavinia what happens to people who are poor. Anything I had went to Miss Minchin. Any money from them went to Miss Minchin. Any wages I would earn here will go to Miss Minchin. I have nothing left to give. Jessie shook her head slowly, hair swaying. I didn't think she would be so hard. to steal all your beautiful, precious things. Is that all you care about? My things? I would have happily given up everything I owned if it would have saved my papa. I'm sorry. You must think I'm sorry. She doesn't mean to be cruel. None of this is her fault. But I can't say that it doesn't hurt. Sarah turned away. I have to go. I have chores to do, because I am a servant. Go back to Lavinia. She's your best friend, isn't she? Maybe she has something she can give you. I'm sorry. Sarah did not answer. I am trying so hard not to sob into this microphone. Sarah. Yes, Miss Minchin. Take this. A Latin book? Did you want me to put this away for you, ma'am? No, that is for you. Am I going to be allowed to return to classes? Oh, her little hopeful face. Perhaps there was a mistake. Perhaps my papa lives and... Of course not. You are still an ignorant child. Be grateful that you are given the chance to make something better of yourself. Study that in the evenings. You will be examined on its contents to see how you are progressing. When you have learned that book satisfactorily, then and only then I may grant you another. To make a chore, what should be a delight. But I am hungry for books, and she knows it. Thank you, Miss Minchin. I am pleased to see your attitude has improved somewhat. Remember, you are in my debt for all that was spent on you that your father never paid. I'm sorry, hold on. Remember, you are in my debt for all that was spent on you that your father never paid, but that does not mean you can never be redeemed. Show a good Christian work ethic, serve as you are told, cause me no more trouble, and perhaps when you are an adult we will be able to come to a new arrangement. Do you think you are a good Christian? Now, on with your chores. I don't know what we need to speak to Jessie again. I feel like if we max out one of these, we're gonna be in trouble. Not the fatigue, not the fatigue, not the fatigue. Not the fatigue. Ah, crap. Okay. Sarah's life was just as filled with people as it had always been. She lived in the same school, and the same faces surrounded her. And yet it was a strange and lonely life. More often than not, there was no one at all that she could talk to. When she was sent on errands and walked the streets, a forlorn little figure carrying a basket or a parcel, she felt as if the crowds hurrying past her made her loneliness greater. When I was the Princess Sarah, and I went out in the town in the carriage, or walking with Mariette, everyone liked to turn and smile at me. She had been a beautifully cared for little girl, and as such naturally attracted attention. Her bright, eager face, her picturesque clothing, all had been rare and pleasant to look at. No one looks at me now. No one seems to see me at all. There was, unfortunately, no shortage of poor and shabbily dressed children in the streets of London. One more was nothing remarkable at all. Even with the shock of her change in circumstances, Sarah's body had not ceased to grow. She had been allowed to keep only the oldest and least valuable of her clothing, which now fit quite badly. As such, when it happened that Sarah passed by a shop window with a mirror in it, she did not at first recognize the reflected girl as herself. Oh, Papa, what would you think of your little missus now?
Oh, this will bring it down. Okay, no, that's good.
As Sarah moved through the halls, carrying her bucket of coals, she began to have the sense that someone was following her. It was a strange thought. Why would anyone bother? It wasn't as if she were going anywhere. She was trapped within the walls of Miss Minchin's seminary. Anyone looking for her could find her easily. And yet, when she walked, her well-worn footsteps were echoed by the sound of soft slippers. Casting a swift glance behind her, Sarah caught a glimpse of a drift of red hair vanishing behind an armoire. Jessie! Caught, she stepped into view. Hello, Sarah. What are you doing? Watching you. I didn't mean to disturb you. What do you mean, watching me? Why would you watch me? Are you afraid I'll leave dirt on something pretty? Jessie's fingers flexed and fidgeted. I wanted to learn about cleaning and all the other jobs you do. I don't know everything you do. I wanted to see. I didn't mean to interrupt. I don't know much about cleaning things. I've never had to do it myself. But I'm good at learning dance through watching demonstrations, so I thought. It doesn't sound like she meant anything unkind, but what could she be thinking? Why would you want to learn how I clean things? Because what if it happened to me? What if my parents lost what money they have, or I can't do what they want me to do? You were almost like a princess, and now you're not. And I was never wealthy to begin with. If something went wrong, if I were all alone with nothing, what would I do? This was not a question that Sarah had expected to hear. In her experience, well-treated little girls such as she had once been rarely considered the possibility that their lives might alter. Miss Minchin's students were young, and as such had lived only a few years in which they were capable of thinking about the world. They did not question their positions. They were who they were. Even with the example of Sarah's fall in front of them, none had asked these questions. Miss Minchin's enforced separation had helped them to forget that Sarah had ever been one of them. You're so clever, Sarah. You've always understood more than anyone else. You're going to be a teacher when you're older, or a governess. I know I am not a smart person. If my parents abandoned me, if Miss Minchin sold my clothes and made me a drudge, I could be a maid for the rest of my life. I think you are more clever than people recognize, including me. I always said that it was only an accident that made my life so happy, only an accident that meant my papa was rich and kind, and that I loved books and learning. I knew I could have been born into a different life, but I never thought about another accident coming along and changing the life that I had. I never planned ahead for what I might do then. If you had been warned, I'm sure you would have made better plans than I can. I would never have thought of it if it hadn't happened to you. I'm not clever. I only learn from what I see people do. So, is it all right if I watch? I promise not to get in your way. I suppose. I can't stop her, even if I wanted to. Whatever might happen in the future, right now she is a student and I am a servant. You must try not to speak to me, though. If Miss Minchin sees me dawdling and talking to you as though we were still friends, she would be angry. We're not friends anymore? Sarah did not answer, and after a moment Jessie sighed. I will be very quiet and watch. Sometimes Lavinia doesn't want me to speak either. Oh! Sarah turned her attention back to her chores, but it was hard to forget that Jessie was lingering nearby, watching her. Are we friends? I am not sure. Everything is very strange between us now. I don't think Jessie is a bad person. She's not just a sycophant, like Lavinia said. She doesn't always have much sense, and she is Lavinia's friend, and Lavinia is horrid. It was easy to forgive Lavinia for her errors when I was safe and well, and I knew that she was most likely jealous of me. For her to carry on now is simply cruel. As long as Jessie is Lavinia's friend, she cannot be mine. Oh. I don't... Hold on just a second. I'm having a conundrum because I have no idea how long this game is. And I would like to push through and finish the Jessie ending, but I don't know whether I shouldn't do it all in one video and potentially have it be 2 hours long. We're at like an hour 15 minutes right now. Or if I should cut and then, you know, put it into bite-sized chunks. I should have cut when Act 2 finished and I was just kind of being stupid. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head and cut this video off here. And then we're going to do a second video that is the end, Jessie's ending. Hopefully. I don't know how many weeks there are. So that's kind of... And I Googled, and Google isn't telling me either. So I'm going to cut here, and then we'll come back. So, I'm going to go back to the... Can I not go back to the main menu? There we are. Yes, I saved. Don't worry. So this has been a Little Lily Princess. This was Act 2, the start of Act 2, and the start of locking into Jessie's route for the ending. My name is Anna Myrtle, and I appreciate you guys sitting with me through this, and I'm sorry for crying so much in your ears. And I'll try to get the Jessie ending finished and uploaded as soon as I can after this one. So thank you so much for listening, for watching, for subscribing. Every time I get a little bump in the subscription numbers, I want to like cry happy tears because I really appreciate it. You guys are just freaking awesome and I really appreciate it. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.